Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Gelvin Valley. We are continuing our work of picking up all the bales with our auto-loading trailer. Appreciate having a script like this to help pick up all these bales. I don't know how many hundred of them we made. That's maybe a mod I should be having in here is a bale counter of some type, that tells me just how many of these silly things were made. So I know in this particular field, we're probably gonna get another trailer load. Don't know if we'll need to return here. Being how it's kind of high altitude, it's kind of some amount of work just to get up in here, so but that's alright. What else do we have to do? The last episode we had, I was starting to ask people what their ideas may be in terms of adding a script to a map or something. Maybe a better question is what's something you wish you could see a map do, or something you wish it could simulate. If you could make it, what is something that you would build into a map to get it to do? And I think one example I had was, like a flood script, that I helped someone else put in there in his app. It was a lot of fun to work on. What would you put in there? And part of, what I was thinking here, actually, I just did the other episode not that long ago, and I have a file on my computer kind of where I keep my ideas. It looks like I haven't updated it in a while, and I had two versions of it. Maybe this isn't even the correct version. But, oh, look at that. We got a full trailer again already, so we'll be coming back to this field to grab all the rest of them. But for the moment, we got a long ways to go, clear across the map to offload these and get a little more cash in the bank. So I gotta be careful here. I don't know if I'm able to. There was one other time on an episode in here I read something, and I'm not sure that went the best. It was a letter my son wrote to himself, when he was younger, kind of a time capsule type thing. So I got this other file open on the other screen. The trouble is some of these roads are so treacherous in terms of ditches and everything. I'm not sure I trust myself to drive. I'm looking over the other screen. So when I think about this other map, I mean, a number of things come to mind as I'm still working on or are considering ideas, if you will, that kind of, factor it in. Well, we're not rich yet on here, but I know eventually it seems like I don't know of anybody that just goes bankrupt playing Farming Simulator. Happens in real life, of course. Don't know that I've ever heard of it happening literally in Farming Simulator. So we all know we accumulate cash and we need to figure out something to do with it. Matter of fact, maybe that's, oh, you're up loud, another pedestrian. That may be why the game came with certain placeables, such as very expensive windmills, solar projects, kind of a beekeeping station or whatever, just to have a place to park some significant amount of money, and you'll earn a little bit while you're at it. But it gives you something to continue to spend your money on when you make it. Because after a certain while, the more money you make it here, then it becomes less challenging, and so you start to potentially get bored with it. So it's good to have a place to park cash. So one idea I had for a map was it kind of like this map. It also has somewhere I think up in the town up here. It has a little church built in, kind of as a decorative object. Well, I mean, a lot of times there's donations made to a church or not for profit. So one idea I had was to build a trigger of some kind into the church on this other map. So if you had a charitable intent, you could go make a donation, and then kind of as a reward for the donation, if you will, maybe there'd be a random possibility of a great demand pop up for something or whatever. Not always, but occasionally. And maybe some of it could be commensurate with the size of the donation. I don't know. That was just kind of one idea that I had. Don't know how hard it would be to program it or do the Lua coding behind it. I haven't even tried to do it yet, and not sure that I will. But just one idea that was kind of on the table. Because kind of like I mentioned in the last video, you know, there's a lot I don't know how to do in Lua coding, so I rely heavily on being able to see the example by other modders to see kind of how they solved a problem. You know, how would they code it, and so even as I think of, you know, the coding or the logic really wouldn't be too difficult. The hard part for me would be figure out a graphical user interface. You know, how could I figure out how to type in numbers? You know, if you walk up to a church door and say, okay, I want to donate $500, how do I type that in on the screen? You know, is there a way to do it or to enter those keystrokes? And I know there is. I just need to figure out how to do that, how then to use those, the data that's typed in, and I'm just totally clueless on that. I think at some point I could get up to speed. The question is, you know, do I have enough time to do that? Because, you know, continually in the back of my mind, I'm just reminded this is an old game, and nobody necessarily cares about old games, so probably every moment of time I'm spending on this is, well, I'm not going to say it's bad time, it's just, you know, kind of not as fruitful maybe as time could be spent in other areas. So let me see here. I got a straight stretch, so maybe I can look at my computer here on the other screen. Roads. So consider adding Zentro's rain plane to the roads. You know, I tried this a number of times, but I was defeated every single time. So we are, right this moment, as an example, driving on top of a road object. So the modder Zentro, or however you say his name, Xentro, wrote a script, and he provided some files that you could put on your map roads. And what was really cool about it is whenever it rained in game, the appearance on the road changed. You could see, like for example, if it was raining, you could see little droplets of rain landing. Oh, there the screen just jittered quite a bit there. Right in the same place. It did that there last time, right? Maybe there's something about that spot. But anyway, he made a mod to where, or something you could install in the map, so you could see rain droplets hitting the rain or hitting the road, and the road took on a wet appearance. He did it all kind of with a specialized shader that he programmed, you know, to get it to do that. So I tried to put this feature on the road that appears in this other map, so I could see it wet, I could see the raindrops on it, and no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't get it to work. So I'm either missing something fundamental, or the roads that are installed in this other map aren't the type of 3D object that will work with Centro scripts or something like that. But I'm kind of reluctant to just take all the roads out and replace them, with something else, because that's extremely costly in terms of time. Road sections are some of the hardest to place, on a map, or the most tedious, because you got to get them all to line up and what have you. So I'd rather just keep the existing road network. So maybe that isn't gonna work or be feasible as something I can add in. But it sure would be cool if I could. Whoa! That wall reached out and grabbed me. And I'm probably incurring damage. I moved the damage thing. Yeah, it damaged me a little bit. We'll hopefully be able to grab the rest of the bales in this load here. Not have to return back up here. This was a long drive. Oh, it's telling me it's stopping me. But that's all right. We will get the job done. I think I've been up the mountain, kind of around those trees. So I don't think I need to go up there again unless there's one lurking somewhere in the trees. Pop in here. Nope. I don't think so. I don't see any on my PDA map. I don't know if anybody plays Farm Sim 15 anymore as a general rule. That is one mod I could potentially release for it if it would be of use to anybody, and that's the ability to see the bales. The hotspots kind of on the PDA map that shows them, but it's probably of limited usefulness at this point to anybody. I could throw it out there, but probably very few would care or have any use for it. Alright, now are we so full that we can't pass this guy? Oh my, we're kind of matching speed. Maybe we'll get around to him. Yeah, now we're on the inside of the curve. Just in time, someone else comes streaking over. So I may need to contact Zentro to see if there's any way. He's just been out of the modding world for a while, so I may not be able to contact him to see if there'd be a way to put this rain plane in. I think it'd be a very cool effect to see in the map. It's just, obviously, as we know, when rain falls, roads get slick and they look wet. You can see puddles forming. That's just what happens in real life. So it'd be kind of cool to see that effect in game if we could. But don't know that we'll be able to. Stop throttling me. Drive just a little bit. I wonder if it's 15 miles an hour. I'm not quite sure it's... Yeah, maybe if I go uphill, it's gonna go a little bit slower. Well, why? Oh. I'll just have to keep pressing that button. Another idea I had was some updates in the pasture. I've already made a ton of updates to the pasture in this other map, but some of the ideas I had here was to add some trees to the pasture. I don't know how often the Farm Sim app, that you've seen has had other objects out in the pasture, whether it's maybe a pond or some trees, or maybe a big old water tank or something else. What other obstacles maybe there might be out in a map. But I know there's a particular way to do it, yeah, but it seems like most of the time when you see a pasture area in a map, it tends to be just an open grass area. It doesn't really have anything else going on. So maybe to figure out how to put that in there, one idea I had was to put in a field oasis, kind of, to have a puddle out there for the cattle to drink out of. kind of an artesian well type setup, if you will. But I don't know. I may just pass on that and see. There's a lot of things that might be fun to do, but so little time. Pay attention to driving, so I'm wrapping around this car. Let's see. Oh yeah, another one was, this isn't really my idea, it's kind of one I saw on a map made by Oxygen David. He had a jet plane that flew over the top of the map, and out the back of the jet, you could see a contrail following behind it. And it was really cool how he did it. I mean, basically it was particle animation that he had set up to come out a certain stream, just like you would see it on a jet kind of in real life. So it's like, well, that's kind of a cool idea. I already have a plane in this other map, but it's just a little biplane, I almost think it is, or a little Cessna maybe. It flies onto the map periodically, goes in this arc, circle, whatever. So maybe I need to add another one, maybe. Whew. I've had a couple coughs. Hopefully those will come through on the recording. So maybe I could put a high-flying jet and put a contrail behind it. Anytime you put, but the map also has a hot air balloon in it, and birds in the air flying. So anytime you put these things up in the air, whether it's a plane or birds or hot air balloon, you have what's called a spline. And a spline is basically just a line that your object moves along while the game is running. So it's similar to, say, like the traffic, like the car that just went by us is running on a spline that goes right down the road in the lane or whatever. And so it knows exactly where to go, and it goes there every single time. So this would be something similar, these planes, the birds and whatever that are up there, they just follow a spline exactly where you tell it. So to have that object up there, I would just have to create a new one much higher to show a jet plane and try to put a contrail behind it. So I could study, this was like in Farm Sim 19 maybe 22, I can't remember which one I saw where Oxygen David had worked up an object to do this, but it looked pretty cool. Trouble is, I'm not a 3D modeler, so part of the trouble for me is just finding a suitable object to fly through the sky, and I think I was having trouble finding a jet plane, so kind of tabled it. Alright, I'm below 10 grand in the hole. Folks, we're about ready to make some money. I'm going to be tickled pink if we can get this north of 0. That'll be awesome. Back down the hill we go for another load. As I was looking at the time here too, 2 hours, 38 minutes. We're going to have plenty of time to get all these bales in. Never you fear. Then we'll have time to begin doing some field work even. As we rip up all these fields and get ready to do it all again another season. I also have kind of a list here and this is probably something every modder does, is they evaluate their mod. You know, you make a list of things that you know need to be fixed, things you observe, and maybe you don't have time at the moment, but you know you need to address it at some point. And I probably need a much longer list than what I have. But one of the things I've done in here is I've added additional fruits, and there's been a ton of factories added where there's additional fill types added. So, you know, for example, one of the things I added in was a molasses factory. So there is going to be sorghum you can harvest on the map, and if you wish, you can turn that into molasses. So molasses obviously is a new type of product. It has its own pricing structure, and kind of the note here. Oh, there's that jitter again. What is going on? I wonder if it's the rent mod that is doing all this and causing me this trouble. Well, hopefully it doesn't crash on me. But I apologize for the jitters. So the general note that I've left for myself is to fix all product pricing. And there's been a number of products added, not all of them agriculture related. I think another one that I added was cement, you know, for concrete. You make the cement through rocks, crushing them and whatnot, and adding water and gravel and all that jazz. And then you can use it and pour it in a pad. So I just need to figure out how to value it in some fair fashion, if you will. That and several other products. There's so many things in there. I don't know how in the world I'm going to play all of that in there, but we will see. I got a note to update the opening equipment list. I don't know if anybody has seen my Glen Ellie video that I made, but the map author started you out with quite an equipment contingent. You start out with a lot of stuff, you know, and I know some people would like it that way. To me, that isn't challenging enough. You know, I'd like to start poorer, so I have to work at something to improve the farm and everything. So I think I'm going to adjust that. Oh, there's just a number of things here that'd be too boring to read off to you here. As if everything I haven't read to you already it isn't boring. It probably is. Whoop, I guess there's no need to climb up the hill any further. I think we have all the bales. So I'll head back downhill and we're going to zip off to 26. Kind of following the same order that we combined all these. Picking up after ourselves all these bales. And navigating these curved roads. Some of it is adding sell points, you know, for some of the new products that were brought in. But a lot of these new products, you know, like I just mentioned molasses a little bit ago, it's going to be in a pallet. So there is already a place on the map to sell pallets. So, you know, the player would just take the molasses to the same place that other pallets are sold, and that will be that. And you know, the map simply isn't big enough unless I really make a whole bunch more changes to just add other towns or places to sell these. You know, it's like I say, if you've seen the episode, it's pretty simple how it was laid out, and I'd like to try to keep it that way if I can. But obviously, any new product is going to need a place to be sold. Yeah, note here to fix some gravel textures that were too big. I am not very good with textures and, you know, and adding stuff to Farming Sim that I had never seen added in any other map. You know, you kind of got to make a lot of stuff up as you go. You know, like one of the things that I put in there was a rock crusher. Well, I mean, you got to go find some 3D object that looks like a rock crusher. Well, the only one I could find was something literally in Farming Sim 19. So it seems totally ridiculous that I would take it backwards from 19 to 15, but I did. So what I had to do was first take the object out of 19, put it into Blender, and then once it was in Blender, there's a little utility you can use that will convert it into what's needed for Farm Sim 15. So that's some of the hoopla I had to do just to get some of those assets. And, some of it was creating a texture for the gravel that came out, and yeah, it just doesn't look the best. So kind of a note to try to fix some of those. But at some level, I don't know, at some point I may look at this list and just say, screw it, I'm gonna run with whatever I have and let the chips fall where they may, and I don't know. Yeah, somehow in the process as I was editing this map, all the maple trees became uncuttable. You can drive through them. You you can't you can take a chainsaw along it, but it just doesn't even recognize them as a tree, so you can't cut anything. Um, yeah, so that also needs to be fixed. One of the things that I installed, and it may have been this way that I did it. There was a script I saw on a map called Viable Forest. Maybe it was on ModHoster. Where in Farm Sim 15, unlike later versions, the player could cut down any tree. For example, I can walk over into this forest over here and just start hacking away at trees, and it's no problem. So someone created a mod that would force the player to buy the forest before they cut the trees. So I kind of put in one like that forces you, and I don't, maybe it wouldn't be of interest to explain how it is, but basically the way it works is you see a forest there, but it's really not cuttable tree objects in the forest. It just looks like a forest. But once you buy it, it replaces all those objects with real trees, if you will, that you can actually cut down. Am I going the right way? Yeah, I think I am. Unfortunately, I don't have a full load. I'm going to have to go up this road, climb that steep, steep, steep hill, and we'll get some bales up there. But I think once I'm up there, I can stay up top, kinda. We'll see. We shall see. This is going to be in our new field. So hopefully help pay for itself. We don't get all of its bales. So somehow in installing this viable forest, I don't know if anybody's ever played with it but it was a total pain to set up, making all these separate forests that the player could buy in separate pieces. But somehow in the process, I broke all the deciduous trees, the maple trees, the oak trees, whatever else I had on the map. So I have to somehow fix them. And then I have a smattering of just other mod ideas, some of which, I've spent some substantive time trying, but that are fairly difficult in one way or another. Difficult for me. Like I say, I freely admit I'm a novice at it. There's others that would be, maybe could do it in their sleep, some of these ideas, but I can't. So one of them that I see here is storm cutting of trees. I first tried this in Farm Sim 17. Wanting a script. Every now and again a heavy rainfall comes in or hail, and just saying, what if? Because I know around here, if we get day after day after day of heavy rains, one thing you may have to contend with, of course, is flooding. But another thing you have to contend with is waterlogged soil. And You know, you get oversaturated in the soil, and pretty soon you have trees that are bending over or literally falling down. And it isn't so much that the wind is blowing them down. You know, maybe it's just excessive rainfall or whatever. And actually, let me see here. How close am I? Ooh, dear, dear, dear. Sorry, car. I think I can go down this road, right? And it's gonna take me. Yeah, we'll go down this road and it'll be close to. This time I don't have to go downhill to come back to the field, so this will be handy. It's right around this building up here. I think about the sell point for straw. So I know it'd be a fun mod to make. I've already done some of it, like I say, but it was pretty intensive in terms of, you know, trying to do a thorough job of it, and any objects that could be moved for a storm or tipped over, and trees. The the documentation on trees is much more limited than other object documentation. When I say objects, I'm talking like bales or uh, pallets, vehicles, trailers like we have here now. Those are objects. And trees, it's just in they are stored in kind of a whole separate area, if you will. So, and it's there's very limited information available on how to work with those objects that are in there. So, you know, if you want to get a tree to bend over in a storm, you know, locating the tree on the map, you know, random impacting a few of them. I was getting it to work. You know, one of the things I had was not just bending it over, was flat out trying to take limbs off of it. You know, anybody that's been through a storm knows that branches will come down. So one of the things I was trying to do was to snap some of these trees off and just damage them, and then leave a mess, you know, that the player would have to go deal with it. So just more ruminating on additional ideas, and I don't know if this or many of the others we've talked about will ever come to fruition. Just kind of the ruminations of the mind of a fellow player and modder of this game that we all enjoy. Well, as I look at the clock, I think I've taken up your time for another half hour again, so I'm gonna terminate the episode here. I'm getting encouraged by how close we are to getting out of the woods with our money, so hopefully soon we'll have all of our bills picked up, and we'll be on to something else. Thank you for watching, for spending a little time here. I wish you a wonderful day, and we'll see you again here soon. Bye bye for now.